So I know when the street vendors doing it, they're like, it's like throwing down the dough. But like when I do it, it's no. Famous in Malaysia and Singapore, but with obvious Indian influences here. How do you make this crispy, multi-layered, flaky flatbread? Well, I'm gonna show you, my friends. This is my version of Roti Canai. All right, so there's a fair bit of technique with getting all that flaky, like multi-layered business going on with the roti, but we'll get to that a bit later on. First up, I wanna make a really lovely dal so I can dip my bread in something spicy and amazing. Let's do that first. Now make sure you start both your roti and your dal the day before because we need to do a bit of prep work. So you wanna start off with some chana dal. Very, very common yellow dal that you can find in most supermarkets. It's a very easy one to find, so that's why it's good. So to start off with, you want to cover your dal with some water. And this is the part you need to start the day before. So just let that soak overnight, and when you do that, because I had some that I soaked yesterday so that you guys don't have to watch like paint dry, once you've soaked it overnight, this is what it looks like. So you can see that the little dal grains have puffed up, and I've also drained the water off already. So that's what you're looking at for your dal. Now let's get started on how we cook the rest of the aromatics and all the spices. So I'm using what's called ghee. The main thing with ghee is that, well, one, it's a clarified butter. So basically the milk solids have been melted and taken away. So you're left with kind of like this really buttery kind of flavor, but you don't have milk solids in there that are going to burn. So that's the great point about ghee. It also just has a really great flavor. Like it's kind of like almost like, it's like an extra bit of creaminess that's special. Now, if you can't use ghee, then just use some regular vegetable oil. That's totally fine. And once this is kind of melted and getting a bit hot in there, then I'm gonna go in with some garlic and some ginger and some chili. I've got some really finely chopped green chili here, and I like it spicy, so I'm gonna go in with quite a bit of chili. You could tone that down if you like to, of course. Now just give these aromatics here a little bit of time to kind of, you know, soften down, get rid of that raw garlic flavor. So now let's get some spices going. So I'm gonna go in here with some garam masala, which is an Indian spice blend. Typically can contain things like ground coriander, cumin, cinnamon, cloves. Slightly different depending on what mix you've got or what brand you buy, but you kind of get the same sort of, it's almost like that same kind of, I don't know, Indian spice vibe anyway. Okay, so we've got that in there. Now we're gonna go in with some diced tomato. So what you want to do here is let that tomato really like cook down until it's all broken down. Everything looks like a little tomatoey kind of sauce thing going on. You'll see what I mean. Just let this sort of gently simmer, stir it every so often, about 10 minutes. All right, friends, so this is what we're looking at here. It's currently smelling amazing, like the garlic and the spices and all the things, really yum, and that sauce is looking saucy, like it's all broken down, so that's great. I want to add in my dal. This is the dal that had already been soaked. And then I also want some water in here as well. Give that a stir and then turn the heat down low. And this is where you're gonna exercise a bit of patience. So I want you to simmer this on low for an hour and a half. Make sure you come back and give it a stir every so often because you don't want the lentils to burn on the bottom. If things are starting to look too thick, just add a little bit more water, but you'll see it'll be magically beautiful and creamy when we come back in an hour and a half. So now we can get on to making our roti. So the ingredients themselves are really simple. You just need a little bit of time though. So as I said, do this part the day before along with soaking your lentils as well. So we start off with some plain flour or regular all-purpose flour, dash of sugar, pinch of salt, give that a mix. And now in the same way that you would do for like a Western short crust pastry, we're gonna add some fat here and rub it into the flour. So I'm using my ghee here And you could use butter here if you wanted to. And then just use your fingers to rub that ghee into the flour until you have something that resembles kind of like pebbly sand, if you like. Just get it evenly distributed all the way through. And there you go. Sort of that kind of situation is what you're looking for. And now just make a little well in the center here. And what I need is 1 egg and some warm water. Now start mixing that so that you're whisking the egg and the water, and then just kind of bring the flour in from the sides as you mix. And you're gonna get to the point where the dough is sort of almost formed together, so you can get rid of your fork at this point. Scatter over a generous amount of flour onto your bench top here, and then scoop out that dough. Now you might need to like sort of sprinkle a little bit of flour as you go along here if things get a little sticky. So just sprinkle that as you need. And then here's where I want you to do a bit of relaxing. Just knead that dough, and you want to knead it for a good like 10 minutes, like a proper 10 minutes here. Now, once you get to the point where things are looking really lovely and smooth, I mean, that's just such a joy. Look at that dough ball. It's very nice. I find weird things joyful. Anyway, what we want to do is give this dough a bit of time to rest. So just cover our little guy up here with some cling film. 20-minute cat nap. That's all he needs, and we'll come back. Okay, so your dough should be ready to come out of its little wrap now. And all you need to do here is just roll everything into a cylinder. Just makes it easier for dividing up. And I want that in half, and then I want 6 even pieces here. Now what we do here is grab each of our little blobs here, roll into a nice little ball, and then a little drizzle with some more ghee. And again, you could use vegetable oil here if that's what you're doing instead of using the ghee. And pop that down onto a tray. Let's keep going with the rest of the dough. Now these guys, these are the ones that need their overnight rest as well. So pop some cling film on top and just leave them overnight in the fridge. And just before you want to roll them out, just take them out, like, well, not just before, an hour or so before you want to take them out, just keep them at room temperature so they're not straight out of the fridge. But as I did with the dal, and you can see I'm quite chuffed with myself for being so organized, but I have a tray of these that I did yesterday. So let's have a look. All right, and now the fun really begins. Okay, so let's pick up one of our little balls here, and you just want to, like, there's plenty of ghee on the outside of these, so I'm not going to oil my bench top. I think it should be fine. But you just get the palm of your hand and sort of smush, it's the best way I can describe it, smush that dough out, and you're aiming to get it like wafer thin, like so thin. It's sort of like if you've ever made phyllo pastry before, it's the same kind of thin texture, and just keep pulling that dough up and out as well as using your palm. So just up and pulling, stretching that dough, and you should get it like impossibly thin. And once you've got something resembling this, really just so beautifully thin, start rolling down from the top and then roll up from the bottom. And the idea here is that we're just trying to get as many like sort of layers of pastry as possible. So I've rolled that up, and then I'm going to roll this into a cylinder. Just sort of tuck that bottom bit in through the center there on the bottom, and you've got a little kind of spirally coil there. So I'm just going to keep going and do all of my other pieces first. So now you have your little coils of dough. We still need to do a little bit more smushing before we cook those, but they need to rest for 15 minutes. So that actually gives you the perfect amount of time to make the spiced temper that we're gonna put on top of the dal. So this is like the spice, it's a spicy seasoned oil. So I want a frying pan here. I've just got some oil. This is just a regular vegetable oil. To that, I'm gonna add some mustard seeds. Now I also want some red onion here. A little pinch of salt. Some cumin seeds. And some whole red chilies. So yes, I really like to do the whole chilies here. And these are dried, sorry, chilies. I kind of like the whole chilies because you get a really nice infused flavor without like a big bang hit of heat. And then finally, if you can get a hold of this ingredient, it will make things so extra special and aromatic and amazing. These are curry leaves, and I'm really lucky because my greengrocer down the road has these fresh. They freeze really well. So if you can get a hold of them, buy a big batch and keep them in your freezer. Better yet, see if you can get them delivered frozen. That might be an option as well. They are quite easy to grow too, so that's an option too. But otherwise you can just leave those out. That's okay, it'll still be great. Now that is smelling really amazing. Come in here and have a look at our dal. So this has had the hour and a half to simmer. It's lovely and creamy. Those lentils have really broken down in there. And what we're gonna do now is get our hot, spiced, aromatic oil in there and just fold that through. Oh, I wish you guys were here and you could smell this. Oh, so good. So we're nearly there, my friends. Let's finish off our roti. I want a little bit of a drizzle of a little bit more ghee on my bench top here. Grab a hold of one of your coils there. Just kind of give it a bit of a roll in that ghee, and using your palm again, squish that dough out into a circle around about kind of like 20 centimeters in diameter. And you should be able to see lots of those sort of like circles of layers going on in that dough. It's all that hard work we put in earlier with the rolling. Okay, I've got a pan here really smoking hot because I kind of want these to get a little charry. Now throw down your dough and give that a really good few minutes each side until you get that really lovely deep golden color, slightly charred at the edges. Okay, so this is looking really amazing right now. We're not quite finished yet. One final little thing that you need to do to your roti canai is drop it down because it's hot. I mean, if you had really asbestos fingers, hands, you could do this without the tea towel, but onto a clean tea towel and then just like kind of give it a smash, like just break up that bread, and you can see it kind of loosens up all those layers in there and you get all of those multi-layers and things going on here. This is one very happy piece of flatbread here. I'm loving this, this is so cool. Okay, so that, I mean, and that's the test, right? So when you have a really good roti canai, you should be able to smush it together and you get all of those flaky layers. That's a good one. All right, let's keep going with the rest of our dough balls here. So I'm really excited right now because I'm gonna be eating a whole lot of this any minute now. Just spoon out your dal into a little serving bowl. So there you go, friends, my version of roti canai. I gotta say, before I had ever made this at home, I really thought that it was too difficult, that I wouldn't be able to get the right texture in the roti. But I mean, this is a really good technique for home, and it is flaky and amazing, and all the layers and everything's so cool. And let's just get in here, shall we? I mean, so good. It's just, you know, it's just a little bit of heaven. That's what it is. That dough, that pastry is uber light. Like, it just kind of melts, like it's crispy, but then just disappears into, you know, that spicy dal mixture. It's so good. Yum. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed that one. If you did, why not hit the like button? And even better, I would love so much if you would subscribe and even hit that little bell button so you get notified every time I release a new delicious video. Thanks guys.